Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Zhou Zhou nodded and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, everyone, try your best to stay in the time world every night. It's not an exaggeration to say that our territory is developing at an astonishing speed every day. If you don't hurry up and improve yourselves, in the future, if something happens to me, don't blame me for not reminding you today." "Yes, Your Majesty," everyone agreed solemnly. Zhou Zhou nodded and entered the time world with everyone. Others began to do what they wanted in the time world. They could either comprehend laws, master military formations, practice their skills, or improve their class abilities. Zhou Zhou continued to study the Lord's laws. However, he had completely comprehended the incomplete Lord talent contained in the Black Iron Tier Hand of Wealth. Therefore, he planned to officially comprehend the Lord talent contained in the Black Iron Tier Lord talent, King. The world he entered was still the Saha Empire from 1,000 years ago. He planned to use up all the time in the time world that he had not used up last time. Time passed quickly. The next morning, in a study room in the Advanced Grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou Zhou and the other souls returned to their bodies from the time world. Then, Zhou Zhou was the first to open his eyes. The others also opened their eyes one after another. They looked at each other and could see the excitement in each other's eyes. It's hard to imagine. 1 second, I was still in the Great Xia Empire for more than 300 years ago. In the next second, I returned to the country from more than 300 years ago. There are always transmigrators in the myriad worlds. I can be considered a transmigrator now? Wu Xian. No, it should be said that Divine Dragon Spear Cavalry, Wu Xian, lamented. He emitted waves of divine power. Even though it was a little unstable, he was already at the level of a low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirit. On the other side, a smile appeared on Bai Yun's face as she felt the surging divine power in her body. She raised her head and looked at the other blazing sun kingdom god spirits around her. The pressure in her heart quietly disappeared. He was finally a god spirit of the blazing sun kingdom. 10,000 arrows and formation control god. This was the god spirit title that she had naturally understood after breaking through to the god spirit realm. At the same time, it was also her hero title, even though there's still a gap between him and the other god spirits. But I will work hard to catch up until I become the strongest blazing sun kingdom god spirit apart from his majesty. Grit flashed across Bai Yun's eyes. He had no choice. He had to do this. Otherwise, he would be letting down his position as the Legion commander of the Blazing Sun Army. On the other side, Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Architect Master Zhao Changshu smiled. Over the course of the night, after 10,000 times acceleration, he had stayed in time for a total of 13 years. In the past 13 years, he had finally perfectly digested the building foundation he had accumulated in the Blazing Sun Kingdom and successfully advanced to the Legendary Tier Elementary Grade Architect Master. He couldn't help but sigh when he thought about the bumps he had encountered along the way. He was originally just an architect with the potential of a White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. When he first arrived at the Blazing Sun Kingdom as a White Platinum Tier Intermediate Grade Architect, he was also the highest level architect in the territory. It could be said that His Majesty relied heavily on him. No matter what kind of important building it was, His Majesty trusted him unreservedly and gave him all kinds of precious building blueprints and materials to preside over the construction. Walls, Monster Ranch, Imperial Ancestral Temple, God of Death Statue, War Hero Monument. He had presided over the construction of these buildings, and the names of the builders with him as the leader were engraved on them. When he broke through to the limit of his potential and could no longer make another breakthrough, His Majesty did not give up on him. Instead, he thought of ways to increase his potential. He did not let down His Majesty's expectations. The architect's level increased step by step. Diamond Tier, Extraordinary Tier, Epic Tier, and even today's Legendary Elementary Grade. Even though he had reached the limit of his potential again, he no longer had any regrets like before. He was already very satisfied. If there was any hope in the future, It would be to enter the time world a few more times and experience the construction process of those legendary buildings. I have to bring a few disciples into the time world in the future. Zhao Changshu thought. His potential had been exhausted. It was time to nurture top-notch architects for the blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou Zhou looked at the expressions of the 100 people and could tell that everyone had benefited greatly. A smile appeared on his face. This reincarnation sacred palace was simply a top-grade lord talent. In just one night, he had shortened the growth time of his subjects by 13 years. If this continued, how effective would the effect be? Let's go. Everyone has worked hard all night. Let's go out for a meal. Zhou Zhou smiled. Everyone was in a good mood. They walked out of the cultivation hall one after another. Under the operation of the legendary tier chefs in the capital, table after table of delicious food appeared in front of everyone. After everyone ate to their heart's content, Bai Yun and the others brought the soldiers to clean up the monster ranch. Zhou Zhou walked out of advanced grade Lord's Paradise and walked towards the Gate of Summoning. Today is the 7th day of the King of 10,000 Kings event. Zhou Zhou opened the World Channel as he walked and looked at the current situation of the Lords of Cerulean Planet. The result made him frown slightly. At the moment when the Lord of the Scarlet Fog invaded the Supreme Continent and even the Myriad Worlds, all the lords of the myriad races were in a bad situation. The human lords of the Cerulean Planet, who were below average in strength, were no exception. Most of the lords of Cerulean Planet who were talking on the World Channel were worried or even desperate about their future. The Scarlet Lord's invasion gave them too much pressure. However, there were also things that made him relax slightly. After Dragon Lady Lord, Mystic Heaven Lord, Military Industry Lord, and the others established the kingdom, they used the kingdom's cohesiveness and protection ability to obtain their favor. Their situation was much better than other lords. After recruiting the soldiers, let's continue with the kingdom token auction. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. He was not a saint. However, he would naturally do what was beneficial to him, the human race on the Cerulean Planet, and the entire human race. Then, he recalled his gains in the time world last night. Soon, he arrived in front of the Gate of Summoning and chanted in his heart. The next second, the Gate of Summoning suddenly lit up with a bright white light. Then, a large number of new subjects walked out. After spending 100 extraordinary tier mist cores to accelerate, the 18,800 new subjects quickly walked out of the Gate of Summoning. Greetings, my lord, X18, 800. The 18,800 new subjects said respectfully. Hello, everyone. Zhou Zhou smiled. Then, he asked all the professionals to stand up and realized that he had summoned a total of 592 professionals. Among them were an extraordinary tier advanced grade space gardener, an extraordinary tier advanced grade sword shield soldier, an extraordinary tier advanced grade ice magician, an extraordinary tier advanced grade sorcerer, an extraordinary tier advanced grade array master, an extraordinary tier advanced grade curse master, and an extraordinary tier advanced grade blessing master. The rest were life professionals and combat professionals below extraordinary tier. Zhou Zhou looked at the last two extraordinary tier advanced grade curse masters and extraordinary tier advanced grade blessing masters. He clicked on their attribute information curiously and realized that their skills were all a bunch of curse skills and a bunch of blessing faculty skills. The skill is not bad. It's just that the class level is too low. After reading it, Zhou Zhou thought regretfully. If only they were legendary tier curse masters and blessing masters. At the level of extraordinary tier advanced grade, no matter how good their abilities were, they would not be of much use on a battlefield involving god spirits. As for legendary tier curse masters and blessing masters, they could already control the situation on the battlefield. He did not mind and walked towards the Lord's shop. Soon, Zhou Zhou arrived at the Lord's shop. To his surprise, Zhou Qingmin, who used to play games in his room in the morning, was standing at the door with an anxious expression. When he saw Zhou Zhou, his eyes lit up. He walked over quickly and said quickly, "Your Majesty, you're finally here. Let's go and buy today's goods. After that, I have other things to do." "What is it? Why are you in such a hurry?" Zhou Zhou was stunned. "Your Majesty, have you forgotten? Today is the official launch of the VR helmet. As Zhou Qingmin walked towards the Lord's shop, he said excitedly, all the regional territories in the Blazing Sun Kingdom will be sold at the same time. What's more, the Star Alliance Masters faction market, the Human Lords faction market on Cerulean Planet, the Night Empire and the Divine Sword Empire's market, and even some of the surrounding people of foreign races will officially release virtual reality game helmets today. I've already gone to the sales venue just now. Oh my God, it's filled with people. After His Majesty buys the goods, I have to queue up too. Ha ha ha, this time I can finally play the complete version of Samsara. The experience of my own standalone Samsara is definitely different from that of having a real teammate. As the two of them spoke, they had returned to the Lord's shop. But didn't I give you a VR helmet? Why are you queuing up? Zhou Zhou stopped in his tracks and asked curiously. His Majesty gave me a beta version of helmet. When you released an open beta helmet today. Moreover, it has open beta benefits. Moreover, as an old player, how can I miss such a memorable day? Zhou Qingmin said with a yearning expression. Zhou Zhou. What he said made sense. I was speechless. At this moment, Zhou Qingmin had already returned to the Lord's shop. He took out 3 silver boxes from under the counter and placed them in front of Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou opened them one by one. The first silver box contained an extraordinary tier advanced grade skill book called Fatal Immunity. It could allow the user to be immune to lethal damage below the level of an extraordinary tier advanced grade. The second box contained another extraordinary tier advanced grade skill book called Cursed Blood. It could create wounds on the enemy's body, causing the enemy's wounds to not heal for a long time. It was easy to bleed and increased the risk of contracting the infest virus. Zhou Zhou looked at the 2 skill books with a strange expression. These 2 skill books seemed to be the skills of the 2 Blessing Masters and the Curse Master he had just seen. He did not expect to see it in the Lord's shop in the blink of an eye. The efficiency of the Lord's shop was really high. He didn't mind and looked at the last item. This item was also a skill book. However, it was not an ordinary skill book. Instead, it was a military formation skill book. It was the battle formation skill book that he had given to Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and Luo Shang last night. When Zhou Zhou saw this military formation skill book, he was stunned for a moment before the corners of his lips curled up. Finally, something good came out. How much are these 3 goods? Zhou Zhou looked up and asked. The extraordinary tier advanced grade skill books Fatal Immunity and Cursed Blood are each worth 30 extraordinary mist cores. Low-level deity advanced grade battle formation skill book, Soldier God. It's worth 1,500 legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said. Small amount of money. Without another word, Zhou Zhou took out 1,560 legendary tier mist cores and handed them to the other party. Zhou Qingmin didn't look at it and kept it. Then, he said to Zhou Zhou, Your Majesty, I'm going to line up. He directly ignored his shop and jogged to the launch point of the virtual reality helmet. Zhou Zhou looked at the other party's back and suddenly had the thought of following him. Anyway, Bai Yun should not have finished cleaning up the Ranchland continent yet. It would not delay anything if he went to take a look. At the thought of this, he decided to go. However, he did not go immediately. Instead, he learned all 3 skill books before leisurely walking to the selling point. The first-generation virtual reality helmet is currently on sale. There's a limited number of them. First come, first served. There are even mysterious open beta rewards in individual virtual reality game helmets. On a tall building that was 300 to 400 meters tall, there was a huge billboard with colorful words written on it. Zhou Zhou looked at this scene in wonder. The scene in front of him made him feel like he had returned to modern society. He glanced around. Personal terminals, virtual games, cars, roads, tall buildings, personal aircraft, robots, spaceships. Humans could live harmoniously with the people of foreign races and even the fog monsters. It looked strange, but it was actually orderly. So my Blazing Sun Kingdom has already developed to this extent? Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. He suddenly felt an uncontrollable sense of accomplishment and joy. The technological development of the territory in front of him. Even the cerulean planet or Earth could no longer compare. Who would have thought that there was only a lonely lord's wooden house, a short gate of summoning, an unfamiliar lord, and a group of subjects who were terrified and uneasy about the future less than a month ago? The world of juggernauts with extraordinary tier power is so unbelievable. Zhou Zhou lamented. In the real world, building a super-modern country from scratch in less than a month? What kind of dream was this? And that could be done here. By him. Zhou Zhou looked into the distance. In front of a virtual reality helmet release point, there was a line of 2 to 3 kilometers. They were all subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. There were humans and people of foreign races. At this moment, some of them looked excited, some were impatient from waiting, and some simply set up a tent on the ground and prepared to fight a protracted battle. Zhou Zhou also saw someone familiar among them. Zhou Qingmin didn't say anything else. Xiao Xin was actually inside. Behind him was the youth who had automatically changed his profession to Guardian of Death some time ago. Zhou Zhou remembered that the other party's name was Zhang Yi. Zhou Zhou smiled and did not mind. He was just a child, not an adult. It was normal to play games. Zhou Zhou believed that they would be able to control themselves. This was because people with extraordinary talents like them often had far greater self-control than ordinary people. Even if they played games, they would not really be immersed in the game. And before they completely grew up. Actually, Zhou Zhou did not intend to give them too much pressure, so he would not ask them to go out and train every day. Wanya, how many virtual reality helmets have you prepared? Zhou Zhou retracted his gaze and suddenly asked. Your Majesty. Due to time constraints, Wanya only prepared 1 billion virtual reality gaming helmets. Among them, 300 million helmets were sent to the Blazing Sun Kingdom's market, 200 million helmets were sent to the Star Alliance's market, 200 million helmets were placed in the Blazing Sun Kingdom's official shop on the World Channel, 200 million helmets were sent to the Night Empire and the Divine Sword Empire, and 100 million helmets were sent to the Lord of the People of Foreign Races market. Currently, the manufacturing factories of the 10 virtual reality gaming helmets in the Blazing Sun Kingdom's territory are working hard to create more virtual reality gaming helmets. Based on current production, it is estimated that 500 million virtual reality helmets can be produced every day. A gentle voice suddenly sounded in Zhou Zhou's mind. Zhou Zhou nodded. This production was not bad. Make a profit statement for me tonight on the revenue of the VR helmet business. I want to see the future of this business. Zhou Zhou said. Yes, Your Majesty. When you said respectfully. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. Then, he took one last look at the long queue. His expression changed slightly as his gaze landed on a young man sitting in a wheelchair. Interesting. He's only at the Black Iron tier. His providence is actually comparable to the providence of a legendary tier life form. From the looks of it, he wants to buy a virtual reality helmet to play games? Could this guy be an esports protagonist? Zhou Zhou's expression was strange. He controlled the Regal Sage Dao Sword and had more than 10,000 legendary tier skills on him. Naturally, he had some ability to see luck. At this moment, he sensed that this young man, who only had the strength of a Black Iron tier, was surprisingly lucky. He was even comparable to a legendary tier expert. With a thought, he activated the mental divination. The mind divination was the bloodline talent of the illusory life race. It could make simple calculations about the future. In addition, the illusory life race had another bloodline talent, fate perception. The combination of these two talents might not allow him to see the fate of some experts clearly. However, it was not a problem to see the fate trajectory of some weaker living beings. Thousands of fate images flashed in his eyes before gradually returning to nothingness. Zhou Zhou looked at the youth and a faint smile appeared on his face. Even though he can't become a super expert who can dominate an area, his achievements in another field are enough for him to be remembered by the world and history. He looked at him one last time, gave his blessing in his heart, and turned to leave. At the same time, just as he was leaving, the youth also looked in the direction where Zhou Zhou had left in confusion. Was someone looking at me just now? He didn't think too much about it. His gaze landed on the VR helmet release point in the distance. When I was on Cerulean Planet, I was already a top-notch player. Even though after coming to this world, my potential was not high, and I was destined to not have much of a future on the extraordinary tier path. However, in the field of games, I might have a chance to showcase my strengths. In fact, I might even be able to use the game industry to let little sister and I embark on a higher level of extraordinary tier. At the very least, we also have to earn enough mist cores in the game and hire high-level doctors or clergymen in the territory to treat little sister's illness. Shunan, oh Shunan, you have nowhere to go. You can't lose again in the familiar field of gaming. Shunan thought to himself, and his gaze gradually became firm. On the other side, just as Zhou Zhou was about to look for Mu Gu and Bai Yi, he saw Bai Yun walking towards the advanced grade lord's paradise. When she saw Zhou Zhou, she immediately walked over. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Bai Yun said respectfully. "Has the Ranchland continent been cleaned up?" Zhou Zhou asked. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Your Majesty, please take a look. This is a detailed list of the profits of the Ranchland continent. This spatial ring contains all the gains of the Ranchland continent." After Bai Yun finished speaking, she handed a list of profits and a spatial ring to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou took it and looked at the profit list. Under the effect of the titles of King of Loots and Strongest Lord, in terms of the Mist Core, he had obtained a total of more than 2,750,000,000 green bronze tier Mist Cores, more than 2,310,000 white silver tier Mist Cores, more than 1,650,000 yellow gold tier Mist Cores, more than 1,380,000,000 white platinum tier Mist Cores, more than 1,390,000,000 diamond tier Mist Cores, more than 810,000,000 extraordinary tier Mist Cores, and more than 150,000,000 epic tier Mist Cores. There were also 420,000,000 yellow gold tier God attendant recruitment books, 42,001 本黄金神士转职证明 603,001本风暴之灵招募书 603,001本风暴之灵转职证明 38,000 proof of Legion fragments, over 210 million true faith tier scarlet crystals, over 168 million pious tier scarlet crystals, over 110 million fanatic tier scarlet crystals, 215 Holy Spirit tier scarlet crystals, 120 million iron-eating bear pet eggs, 260 million fear falcon wings, and Type 3 fear falcon radar. As for the other unimportant spoils of war, Zhou Zhou skipped them. He looked at the Ranchland continent's income list and could not help but smile. 420 million yellow gold tier God attendant recruitment books, 630 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books. In total, there were a total of 1,050,000,000 recruitment books. If he threw them all into the Gate of Summoning, he could summon 1,050,000,000 soldiers at once. 1,050,000,000 soldiers a day. An uncontrollable smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. This smile was even a little arrogant. But then again, this efficiency of recruiting soldiers indeed had the right to be arrogant. After all, not to mention a kingdom-level lord faction, even an empire-level lord faction would be stunned for a while when they heard this number. Recruiting the entire army of a beginner-level empire lord faction in a day. Wasn't he afraid? Then, Bai Yun told him about how the King of Yellow Gold recruitment books and the King of Yellow Gold class change certificate had become Golden God attendant recruitment books and class change certificates. Based on what Bai Yun saw, in the beginning, the moment the Golden King monster in the Monster Ranch died and extracted the loots, it indeed dropped the King of Yellow Gold recruitment books and King of Yellow Gold class change certificate. However, they only lasted for less than a second before they suddenly flashed and turned into the Yellow Gold Tier God Attendant recruitment books and the Yellow Gold Tier God Attendant class change certificate. As for the skills and gold dropped by the other King of Yellow Gold monsters, they had also become the skills of the Golden God Attendant and higher-level raw gold. Zhou Zhou nodded. This was naturally the effect of the Book of Silver. Then, Zhou Zhou did not waste any time. He took the spatial ring containing the 1,050,000,000 recruitment books and came to the Gate of Summoning. He used 100 extraordinary tier mist cores to recruit all 1,050,000,000 new recruits at once. Because there were too many of them, the open space in front of the gate of summoning could not accommodate these recruits. Therefore, Zhou Zhou had no choice but to place them in the internal world of the galaxy. But even so, it also took 2 galaxy ships to settle them down. One ship was loaded with 1 billion yuan, and the other was loaded with 50 million. I have to hurry up and create more galaxy. Otherwise, sooner or later, my soldiers will have no suitable place to stay. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. Then, a smile appeared on his face. He originally had 2,066,397,644 soldiers under his command. Now that he had 1,050,000,000 soldiers, his soldiers directly exceeded 3 billion, reaching a shocking number of 3,116,397,640 soldiers. With so many soldiers around, I can complete the Holy Sword Empire's faction quests in a day. Zhou Zhou thought. Currently, he still has 2.5 faction quests. Putting aside the faction quests of the Elven Empire, the Elven Empress had yet to send him a message. It was likely that the Battle of the Gods had yet to begin. The Divine Sword Empire still had a Save the Divine Sword Empire faction quest. In addition, killing the Scarlet God Spirit from the Divine Sword Empire could be considered half a faction quest. If I get rid of all the Scarlet Fog monsters and Scarlet God Spirits from the Divine Sword Empire today, I can complete this 1.5 faction quests. Zhou Zhou thought. He felt that it was not a big problem. A moment later, Zhang Yuanqi came in front of Zhou Zhou. He said happily, "Your Majesty, the refugees have arrived today. There are about 120 million of them. I've already ordered the various states of the kingdom to fully accept these refugees and officially settle them down as subjects of our blazing sun kingdom. Apart from that, there are also 48 heroes with extraordinary tier hero fate level slots and 16 heroes with epic tier hero fate level slots who have come to our territory and officially become our subjects. Among these 64 heroes, there are a total of 12 human heroes. The rest are heroes of the people of foreign races. Also, there are also 3 people of foreign race heroes from the Volcanic Dwarf clan and the Nature Elves clan. They are all rare life profession heroes who achieved achievement as blacksmiths." Zhou Zhou's eyes immediately lit up. A lifestyle class hero for blacksmiths? Such existences were quite rare. An existence that could achieve the hero slot with the blacksmith class was either a weapon forged by oneself, leaving behind illustrious deeds and reputation in history or war. These deeds and reputations were passed down by the life forms and passed down for countless years. Gradually, they became a hero's biography. And the blacksmith master who forged this legendary weapon naturally became a blacksmith-type hero under the support of the hero's biography. If this kind of achievement hero method relied more on timing and opportunities, then the other way to become a hero was more dependent on talent. If a blacksmith-type lifestyle professionals gradually reached the level of skills close to Tao in the process of honing their class skills, they might even comprehend their own lifestyle class hero skills. Such life profession professionals did not need a hero biography. They could rely on themselves to become life profession heroes. Moreover, once they became heroes in this way, not only could they easily create their own hero biographies among the life forms with their hero skills, in fact, because it was a hero skill that they had comprehended, they still had the potential to reach a higher level on their own path. Such a lifestyle hero could be said to have a limitless future on the path of a god spirit. In the past, the existence of achievement heroes in one way could not be said to be bad. However, in terms of evaluation, one had to say, time creates heroes. It could not be said that he had become a hero by himself. Both of them had their own strengths, but there was actually no difference. It was just that they looked at heroes from different perspectives. What kind of heroes are they? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. The blacksmith hero of the Volcanic Dwarves clan is called Chengshan. His hero title is Sound of Fire. He's a blacksmith hero with an extraordinary tier hero's fate level based on his comprehension talent and race inheritance achievement. As for the 2 nature elves, one is called Hroth and the other is called Gade. Their hero titles are Unbreakable Famous Forger and Blood Forger. They are now more than 3,000 years old. These two had once forged hero armor and weapons that were widely circulated in a supreme will event in the past. They are called Hroth Spirit Armor and Bloody Blade. They also became heroes because of these two legendary tier weapons. Zhou Zhou nodded. Nature elves were all long-lived. It was easy to live for thousands, or even tens of thousands of years, even though they were naturally lazy because of this. However, it was indeed easy for such heroes to appear in such long-lived races. Take care of them. Those who should be incorporated into the army will be incorporated into the army. Those who should be assigned positions will be assigned. Let them not regret coming to our blazing sun kingdom. In the future, depending on their performance, you can reward them with the higher-level Secret Manual of the Hero Inheritance and Book of the God Spirit. Zhou Zhou said, "Yes, of course." Zhang Yuanqi nodded seriously. Then, he bade farewell and left. Zhou Zhou watched Zhang Yuanqi leave with a faint smile. With the addition of these 64 new heroes, the number of heroes under his command had reached 242. This number was already comparable to the number of heroes of some weaker beginner Empire Lord factions. In the future, there will be more and more heroes and even god spirits under my command. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. His heart was filled with endless anticipation for the future. After that, he gathered all the generals and assigned them what to do today. First matter. He ordered the two high-tier deity levels, led by Heros and Qi Xiantian, to lead the other god spirits, including Guoqiao, and the more than 3,116 million soldiers in the territory to the Divine Sword Empire through the teleportation array to deal with all the fog monsters around the Divine Sword Empire's territory. Heros, Qi Xiantian, and the other god spirits assisted Lu Zhan, Ji Yun, and the other god spirits of the two empires to deal with the scarlet god spirits surrounding the Divine Sword Empire. He would strive to restore the Divine Sword Empire to the situation before the calamity of the myriad races within 2 days. From there, he would complete 1.5 of Zhou Zhou's faction quests regarding the Divine Sword Empire. The second matter. Guoqiao led the original spirit race, Ansel, the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction, Nazario, the Dragon King of War and Strength, Jilong, and their Dragon God Army, a total of 68 pure-blooded dragons, including spectral dragons, extreme dragon race, light spirit dragons, and other dragons, the Star Alliance Master, and their more than 216 million soldiers. Through the teleportation array, he would head to Linger's spiritual medicine city and assist her in conquering a beginner kingdom around the spiritual medicine city's territory. This would be the foundation for Linger to establish her spiritual medicine kingdom. Even though there was only one god spirit, Guoqiao, the original spirit race, Ansel, Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction, Nazario, and the Dragon King of War and Strength, Jilong had all broken through to the legendary tier level. As possessors of high-level bloodlines, even if they were at the legendary tier level, they already had combat strength comparable to god spirits. Therefore, in this operation, it seemed like Guoqiao was the only god spirit leading the team, but in fact, there were a total of 4 god spirit-level combatants leading the team. Furthermore, Guoqiao had the combat power of a high-tier deity level. Zhou Zhou refused to believe it. With such a powerful lineup helping Linger attack a beginner kingdom, how could there be any accidents? Accidents? Of course, if they successfully took down a beginner kingdom for Linger, Zhou Zhou would also let them go to the neighboring people of foreign races or the Crimson Kingdom to take advantage of them. Zhou Zhou didn't have to worry about any accidents as long as they did not provoke an Empire-level Lord faction. It would naturally be best if he could take down 2 beginner-level Crimson Kingdoms while he was at it. At the same time, he could also fulfill the last requirement for the Blazing Sun Kingdom to advance to an intermediate-grade kingdom. There were only so many temporary arrangements. As for more arrangements, they would wait until they were done with these 2 things. After Bai Yun and the rest received Zhou Zhou's order, they did not waste any time and left. After they left, Zhou Zhou opened the Kingdom Token Auction and looked at the situation of the members in the group. There were a total of 15 Kingdom Tokens in this auction, and there were more than 10,000 top-notch human lords participating in the auction. There were more than 100 times more members than when Zhou Zhou looked at the group yesterday. Among these 10,000 lords, other than the top lords of Cerulean Planet in the World Channel, There were also some top lord members of the Star Alliance. As the Lord of the Star Alliance was his subordinate, Zhou Zhou naturally gave them a portion of the spots so that they could participate in the Kingdom Token auction. Even though the auction had yet to begin, the group chat was already very lively. Overlord Lord, I must get the Kingdom Token this time. Huge Axe Lord, sorry, I'm also interested in this Kingdom Token. Void Demon Lord, I want to build the first Void Demon Kingdom. Blue Dragon Lord, over 10,000 top lords participated, but there are only 15 Kingdom Tokens. This ratio, good Lord, I feel like I'm participating in the examination. Thunderstorm Lord, as a lord, it would be a pity if I don't have the craving to be a king once. Cabbage Lord, let's watch the big shots brag. Dust Lord, the Kingdom Token isn't important. I just want to join His Majesty Zhaoyang and make him my backer. Lord of the Night, F*CK, I think so too. No matter how fragrant the Kingdom Token is, isn't it better to be working with His Majesty? Zhou Zhou watched these top-notch lords of Cerulean Planet chat. To be honest, it was quite interesting. Soon, it was 8 o'clock. Military Industry Lord. The Kingdom Token auction officially begins. Military Industry Lord. I am the host of this Kingdom Token auction, personally appointed by His Majesty. Military Industry Lord. Before the auction officially begins, let me emphasize once again. Since everyone has come to participate in the auction, it is tacitly agreed that once the auction is successful, the lords and the newly established kingdoms will follow the Blazing Sun Kingdom's lead. Furthermore, when the lords under you encounter the army of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, they will have to hand over the territory and a third of the kingdom's wealth. Military Industry Lord. Apart from this, this is the only way you can auction it. If anyone is dissatisfied with this, you can leave the Kingdom Token auction group now. We will not stop you. Military Industry Lord. But if someone gets the Kingdom Token after the auction and regrets it, be careful of His Majesty's ruthless methods. Military Industry Lord. Does anyone want to quit now? No one answered. 3 minutes later. Military Industry Lord. All right, since everyone has tacitly agreed, let's cut to the chase. Let's begin the auction of the first Kingdom Token. Everyone, you can bid now. Overlord Lord. 1,000 pieces of legendary tier Mist Core. In addition, 10 mutant beast mount cubs with legendary tier potential, tamed. Void Demon Lord. Fire Spirit Lord. Blue Dragon Lord. Cabbage Lord. As expected of a big shot. Gold Merchant Lord. It's only the first Kingdom Token, not the last. I won't fight for it. The others had the same thought. 1,000 legendary tier Mist Cores was naturally nothing to Zhou Zhou. However, to other lords, this was an unimaginably high price. Even the top lords of the Cerulean Planet would feel the pinch for a period of time if they could take it out. After the Military Industry Lord said, 3, 2, 1, and no one offered a higher price, the first Kingdom Token successfully fell into the Overlord Lord's pocket. Overlord Lord. Bye-bye, everyone. I hope you can address me as Your Majesty the Overlord the next time we meet. It could be seen that this guy was very excited. However, the others were obviously not going to tolerate his arrogant behavior. Everyone spat in the group chat. The Overlord Lord did not care at all. He did not even participate in the subsequent auctions and directly went offline. Military Industry Lord. It seems that the Overlord Lord is eager to establish a country. I wish him success. Now, let's auction the second Kingdom Token. A moment later, this Kingdom Token was auctioned off by a Cerulean Planet human called Lord Zunshang. He spent a total of 1,500 legendary tier Mist Cores. It was said that this lord possessed a white platinum tier Merchant Lord talent. Coupled with his rich vendor experience when he was on the Cerulean Planet, he quickly earned his first bucket of gold on the High Continent and began to replicate successfully. A long time ago, he had used this mode to become a wealthy lord. Later on, after obtaining the legacy of the country-destroying faction, his capital increased greatly. It was not unbelievable, even though it was a little surprising that he could obtain a second Kingdom Token. And then, the third piece, the fourth piece, the seventh piece, 13th piece. 15th piece. After more than 3 hours of auctioning, all 15 kingdom tokens were finally sold. These 15 kingdom tokens brought more than 15,000 legendary tier mist cores to Zhou Zhou. In addition, there were all kinds of high-level equipment, high-level building blueprints, high-level rare materials, beauties of the other races, pet cubs with high potential. There were all kinds of treasures. However, with Zhou Zhou's current horizons, he naturally did not care much about the mist core and treasures. The main reason why he held this auction was not only to see the human lord of the cerulean planet living too miserably, but also to sell the extra kingdom token in his hand. In any case, these things were useless to him. He might as well exchange them for some benefits. After auctioning off all the kingdom tokens, Zhou Zhou did not say anything else. After bidding farewell to Dragon Lady Lord and the others, he summoned a galaxy and boarded it, flying towards the Divine Sword Empire. Divine Sword Empire. Imperial capital. Transparent ripples suddenly appeared above the space teleportation array, which was guarded by a large number of soldiers. Then, a galaxy slowly appeared from the transparent ripples. After seeing the galaxy, all the guards around were excited. They turned around and bowed respectfully to the galaxy. "Greetings, King of the Blazing Sun." All the soldiers shouted excitedly. They had already heard about the King of the Blazing Sun leading the Blazing Sun Kingdom's army to eliminate all the Scarlet Fog monsters around the Night Empire and assist in killing the Scarlet God spirits that besieged the Night Empire. The current Zhou Zhou could be said to be the savior praised by everyone, in the eyes of the subjects of the Night Empire. Meanwhile, in the Divine Sword Empire, which was also surrounded by the Scarlet Fog monster army, the subjects of the Divine Sword Empire naturally hoped that the King of the Blazing Sun could come to the Divine Sword Empire and help them save them from the abyss of suffering. And now, they saw that the King of the Blazing Sun had really come. How could they not be excited? The next second, a figure appeared in front of Galaxy out of thin air. It was Zhou Zhou. He smiled and nodded at the crowd. Then, he looked at the crowd for a few seconds before his gaze landed on a beautiful figure in the crowd. It was Princess Yuling, who was looking at him with a smile and bright eyes. He sent a telepathic message to Princess Yuling and asked her to come to the galaxy for a chat. Then, he returned to the galaxy cabin. A moment later, in the galaxy, Zhou Zhou and Princess Yuling were casually sitting on 2 white stools. So Uncle Lu and Uncle Ji have already set off to deal with the Scarlet God spirits around the Divine Sword Empire, Zhou Zhou said in realization. Exactly. Yuling nodded and smiled. My father specially asked me to stay here and wait for you to come. Then, he asked us to go over together. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, Yuling, please point the way. Wenya, we'll follow the direction Yuling pointed out as the next flight. When he reached the end of his sentence, he suddenly froze. This moment, individual talents, danger prediction, lord talent, talent intuition, bloodline talent, fate perception were activated. Illusory scenes of fate that only he could see appeared before Zhou Zhou's eyes before gradually dissipating. Why? Yuling asked curiously when she saw that Zhou Zhou was silent for a while. It's okay. I just saw something about the future. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. What is it? Did we encounter danger on this trip? Yuling immediately became nervous when she heard that. She was not even curious about how Zhou Zhou saw the future. That's not it. Even though there were some twists and turns along the way, we still successfully resolved what we wanted to accomplish in the end. The Divine Sword Empire also returned to its previous peaceful state. Zhou Zhou said, That's good. Yuling heaved a sigh of relief and asked curiously, Then what did you see in the future? Temple Lord Bai He is in danger, Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. In fact, it wasn't just that they were in danger. From what he saw with his fate perception, regarding Yuling, Bai He had already died in the abyss. Then, the human race shrank their territory, and a large number of mid to high-level experts were sent out to guard and protect the human subjects everywhere. In the end, because of Bai He's death, the top combat power of the human race had decreased. The people of foreign races were like greedy hunters. coming to the human territory from time to time to take advantage of the situation. The human race's situation was instantly 100 times worse than before, and they were living a very uncomfortable life. It was not until Yu Ling was personally killed by a high-tier deity level from the people of foreign race during one of her expeditions that the future development disappeared. However, even if he used his feet to guess, he knew that the future would not be too good. It looks like Bai He was the only one who died. However, if it continues to develop according to the fate I see in the future, it might turn into a crisis of extermination. Zhou Zhou muttered. His blood ran cold. This fate perception, talent from the phantom race usually did not have much of a presence, but he did not expect it to give him such a huge surprise as soon as it appeared. What? When Princess Yuling heard Zhou Zhou's words, her expression changed drastically. In less than a few seconds, her face turned pale and her body trembled. Not only was Bai He the strongest person in the entire Divine Sword Empire, he was also the protector of the Abyss. His status was comparable to the Sword Emperor Fuyo of the Divine Sword Empire. As one of the very few human true god tier, he was also the strongest person in the entire human race. He was an existence that was the pillar of humanity. If Bai He was in danger and something really happened, it would definitely be a devastating blow to the human race. It was possible that the strength of the entire human race would decrease by 20%. Even though 20% was not much, if it were to be used on all the trillions of human clansmen, it might be the future of the trillions of human clansmen. This kind of thing could be deduced without any fate perception. How could Yu Ling not be afraid? Quick, tell my father and His Majesty Lu Zhan. We must save Uncle Bai He. Nothing must happen to him. Yu Ling said with a pale face. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. At this point, faction quests were no longer important. In any case, those Scarlet God spirits would not leave. It would not be a problem to deal with them another day. The most important thing was to save Bai He first. Otherwise, once Bai He died, the strength of all the top experts of the human race would be weakened. Then, the strength of the entire human race would decrease greatly, and the human race would also fall into the danger he saw. As for Zhou Zhou, as the target of protection, once the power protecting him was weakened, he would be in countless dangers in the future. Just for the sake of his future, he had to save Bai He and let Bai He and the other human experts withstand the pressure from the people of foreign races for him. Besides, Zhou Zhou's eyes were deep. As he opened his personal terminal to contact Lu Zhan and the others, he thought of something else. From what he could see in the future, he was actually the main reason why Bai He was in danger. This was because his performance in the King of 10,000 Kings event was too outstanding. As a normal lord of 1,000 races, he could actually surpass many top-notch bloodline lords, the true lord who was far ahead on the rankings, second only to the original spirit race. This, coupled with his victory in the previous event, had long made the civilization of the races behind the lords of countless top-notch races unable to stand it. However, due to the Supreme Agreement, they could not easily attack him. Therefore, they wanted to attack the human experts. This moment, for the sake of Zhou Zhou's needs, White River, who had entered the abyss to search for the corpse of the demon god spirit alone, entered their field of vision. Then, Bai He became the target. We must save Temple Lord Bai He. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. At this moment, Lu Zhen and Ji Yun's faces appeared on the screen of Zhou Zhou's personal terminal. Nephew, have you arrived? Lu Zhen smiled. He could tell that he was in a good mood. Ji Yun had a smile on his face. With Zhou Zhou's help, the crisis between the Night Empire and the Divine Sword Empire was about to be resolved. It also meant that the human race would not suffer too many losses during this calamity. As the higher-ups of the human race, the two of them were naturally in a good mood. However, they soon realized that something was wrong with Zhou Zhou's expression. What happened? Ji Yun asked solemnly. Lu Zhen also stopped smiling and looked at Zhou Zhou solemnly. I have the ability to detect the future fate of life forms with a small probability. Just now, I accidentally triggered this ability on Yu Ling. The Lord of the Hall of Knights, Bai He, may be in danger. Zhou Zhou went straight to the point. The expressions of the two empire lords instantly changed. What danger? Lu Zhen immediately asked. Jian also looked anxious. He was the guardian of the Night Empire, and his status in the empire was comparable to the Sword Emperor Fuyo of the Holy Sword Empire. If something really happened to Bai He simply didn't dare to imagine what the future of the Night Empire and even the human race would be like. Neither of them doubted Zhou Zhou's words. The human lord's past style and personality made they believe in Zhou Zhou without reservation. They believed that Zhou Zhou would not lie to them about such matters. 3 abyssal true god tiers ambush Temple Lord Bai He in advance. They are the tyranny and despotic ruler of the Dark Crow, Asgrad, the Queen of Spiders, Lorsi, and the Undying King, Orcus. With the top-notch bloodline inheritance in his mind, Zhou Zhou easily recognized the identities of the 3 true god-tier existences in the fate scene. Lu Zhen and Ji Yun's expressions changed when they heard that. They're all super experts from the Abyss. Ji Yun's expression was ugly. The Night Temple belonged to the Night Empire. As the ruler of the empire, he understood the power of these Abyss gods the best. They looked at each other. "I'll go get the Emperor," Lu Zhen said in a low voice. "No way." When Ji Yun heard this, he rejected without hesitation. "We can't alarm the Emperor. What if they only dealt with His Excellency Bai He as a cover and their real goal is to lure the Emperor out?" Lu Zhen also looked hesitant and struggled. "Go and invite Patriarch Lu. See if you can invite Patriarch Lu back to help," Ji Yun said. "Fine." Lu Zhen nodded and immediately meditated with his eyes closed. A faint sword aura surrounded his body, as if he was using some secret technique to communicate with Sword Emperor Fuyo, Lu Yin, who was far away in the immortal world. Ji Yun looked at Zhou Zhou and realized that Zhou Zhou seemed to have a lot to ask. He sighed and said, "You guys come over first. I sent you our location." Zhou Zhou and Yu Ling looked at each other and did not say anything else. They let Wen Yu pilot the galaxy and fly at full speed in the direction Ji Yun had sent them. Soon, they arrived at a forest area filled with vitality. This was also a diamond tier territory. At this moment, Ji Yun, Lu Zhen, Heros, Qi Xintian, and the god spirits of the 2 empires and the Blazing Sun Kingdom were gathered here. At the same time, Zhou Zhou could sense that his 3.1 billion Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers were rapidly clearing out the fog monsters in the nearby area with astonishing efficiency. Zhou Zhou and Yu Ling immediately flew out of the galaxy and quickly arrived in front of Ji Yun. "Lu Zhen and I are going to find someone to save His Excellency Bai He. I'll leave this place to you. Continue to eliminate the fog monsters and the scarlet god spirits here. If we encounter an enemy that we can't deal with, don't worry. We can deal with it together when we come back," Ji Yun said. "Shouldn't we save His Excellency Bai He at a time like this?" Yu Ling could not help but ask. 3 true god tiers working together to deal with His Excellency Bai He. I'm afraid that the Abyss is already filled with traps. Only a true god tier has a chance to break out of a battlefield of this level. What's the use of a group of low-tier and mid-tier deity-level god spirits? A high-tier deity level might be able to help a little, but this little help doesn't mean much. If that's the case, why don't you stay in the territory of the 2 empires and protect our human territory? This way, after we leave, at least we won't have to worry about danger at the back. What if His Holiness Bai He is just a bait? What if their real purpose is to ambush the Empire when we come out in full force? Ji Yun shook his head. Zhou Zhou and Yu Ling fell silent. Even though he was unwilling to admit it, he had to admit that what Ji Yun said made sense. A high-tier deity level might be able to help a little, but this little help doesn't mean much. But that was all. He was not stupid enough to think that he could fight a true god tier head-on, just because he had the strength of a true god tier. Zhou Zhou waved his hand and asked Qi Xintian and the others to continue killing the Scarlet God spirits who were besieging the Divine Sword Empire. When Heros and the others saw this, they bowed to Zhou Zhou from afar. Then, they boarded a galaxy with the other god spirits and flew into the distance. There were no outsiders around. Ji Yun looked at Zhou Zhou and said, "I know you have a lot of questions. There are no outsiders now. Go ahead. Since our human race has 5 empires, we should have 5 true god tiers backing us. Now that Temple Lord Bai He is in danger, why did he only invite Sword Emperor Fuyo and not the true god tiers of the other 3 empires? Zhou Zhou asked. This was indeed his greatest doubt. When Ji Yun heard this, he had a helpless expression. You're right. Our human race does have 5 empires. Behind each empire, there is indeed a true god-tier combat power guarding it. But it's not as simple as you think. It's not like our human race has not paid a price for surviving until now. For example, Lu Zhan's ancestor, Sword Emperor Fuyo. Do you know why he has been floating in the immortal world? Even Lu Zhan doesn't know the exact location of Sword Emperor Fuyo. Ji Yun said. Zhou Zhou shook his head. Because Sword Emperor Fuyo is afraid, and so are we humans. Ji Yun said in a low voice, there are 5 true god-tier existences in our human race. This means that if we satisfy the conditions for building a few other divine kingdoms, we can directly establish a divine kingdom. At that time, the status of our human race will increase by leaps and bounds. But firstly, we can't gather so many extremely harsh divine kingdom conditions. Secondly, those people of foreign races don't dare to let us advance to the divine kingdom. At this point, a trace of blood flashed across Ji Yun's eyes. It was a deep hatred that had accumulated over thousands of years. Only by exterminating billions of people of foreign races' life forms, or even their entire race, could they be eliminated. After those people of foreign races learned that the 5 human empires had 5 true god-tier combatants, they thought of ways to harm them. The Lord of the Saha Empire, the Buddha Lord, underwent nirvana and entered endless reincarnation. The master of the Great Xia Empire, Xinyuan, was sealed in the Xinyuan tomb. He has been sleeping until now. The Lord of the Night Empire, Bai He, was forced to resign from his position as the Lord of the Empire. He left human territory and moved to the front line of the Abyss to guard the Abyss for countless years. The Lord of the Divine Sword Empire, Lu Yin, was also forced to resign from his position as the Lord of the Empire and hide in the immortal world. He was afraid of being found and killed. At the same time, he secretly searched for resources for the development of our human race. As for the master of the heavenly barbarian empire, Pangu, he was the founding master of our human race. The history of our human race also began with Pangu. But he is now forced to seal himself in the primordial world. I hate it. Towards the end, Ji Yun's entire body emitted a terrifying vicious aura. Zhou Zhou looked at Ji Yun, who was emitting a shocking aura, and could not help but fall silent. He had long guessed that there were 5 true god-tier existences in the human race. He had always wondered why the human race did not take another step forward to establish a divine kingdom. At first, he only thought that the humans could not meet the other harsh conditions for establishing a divine kingdom. He did not expect there to be so many secrets behind it. The rulers of the 5 human empires had actually fallen to such a state? At the same time, he was also curious about the identity of the rulers of the 5 empires, especially the Lord of the Heavenly Barbarian Empire, Pangu. Pangu? Is that the Pangu who created the world? Zhou Zhou could not help but ask. Ji Yun had already restrained his emotions. Upon hearing this, he looked at Zhou Zhou and nodded with a smile. Then, he sighed. That's right. Pangu was the first lord of our human race. He was originally called Pan. In that barbaric era where humans didn't have any language, he was the one who held a stone axe and led the human subjects to overcome all obstacles in the barbaric lands. He fought with countless creatures of the races and developed our human territory step by step. That's how we humans are where we are today. After countless years, Pan is still the most powerful and unquestionable guardian of the human race. Therefore, we added the word ancient after his name to express our respect for him. After countless years, Pan is still the most powerful and unquestionable guardian of the human race. Therefore, we added the word Gu, meaning ancient, after his name to express our respect for him. You've heard of it in your world, haven't you? Ji Yun asked in the end. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. Panga's creation of the world could be said to be the most famous legend in his hometown. How could he not know? There are three meanings to the creation of the world. The first meaning is that Pangu led us humans and established our territory, allowing us humans to continue until now. This is also the most important meaning, even though it's not widely spread. The second meaning is that as the strongest true god of our human race, Pangu has grasped a true god-tier mystic technique to create a world. He once used his body as a law to personally create a real world called the primordial world. This is the second meaning. That's pretty widespread. As for the third meaning, at this point, Ji Yun's expression suddenly darkened. As the strongest expert of our human race and also a possessor of master god-tier potential, Pangu has actually been working hard to break through to the master god-tier realm. Once we succeed in breaking through and officially advance to the master god-tier realm, not only can we easily build a divine kingdom, but even the bloodline potential of our entire human race will also be collectively advanced because of Pangu's main divine position slot. From there, we will jump to a high-level bloodline race. Originally, Pangu could have successfully advanced. But just as Pangu was about to approach the master god-tier realm, 3,000 experts of the people of foreign races suddenly descended to the primordial world and surrounded Pangu, who was cultivating in seclusion. Even though Pangu defeated them and expelled them from the primordial world, he was severely injured because of this. He had no choice but to transform into the world and seal himself in the primordial world to recover from his injuries. While he can still hear our voices and break through the barrier, once he does so, it means that his recovery process will be interrupted. All his previous restoration will be in vain. We humans really need to recover to our original state, Imperial Lord Pangu, to protect us humans again. That's why I stopped Lu Zhan when he wanted to ask the Emperor to help. That's right. At this moment, Lu Zhan had already opened his eyes and came to Ji Yun's side. His Excellency Bai He needs to be saved, but we can't interrupt Imperial Lord Pangu's recovery process. I've already contacted the Patriarch. The Patriarch is rushing over. In addition, the Ancestor has also contacted that Excellency from the Xinyuan tomb. At that time, if a war breaks out, His Majesty from the Xinyuan tomb will cross over to help. He said in a deep voice. That's good. With the help of the 3 members of royalty from the Xinyuan tomb and Patriarch Lu, we should have a higher chance of saving His Excellency Bai He. Ji Yun heaved a sigh of relief. But even so, the two of them still did not look too happy. After all, even if Patriarch Lu and the Yellow Emperor from the Xinyuan tomb were both true god-tier existences, together with Bai He whose life and death were unknown, they could barely be considered 3 true god-tier combatants. However, it was hard to say who would win against the 3 true god-tiers of the Abyss. The other party was not weak after all. At the same time, when Zhou Zhou heard Lu Zhan mention the member of royalty, he subconsciously touched the sword of Xin Yuan at his waist. Speaking of which, this sword of Xin Yuan was born according to the myths and legends of the Yellow Emperor Xin Yuan. He did not expect to hear news of that existence today. Myths are becoming reality. Zhou Zhou muttered. He thought for a moment and could not help but say to the 2 rulers of the empire, "Can I go with you?" Actually, the reason why Bai He is in danger this time has a lot to do with me. I also want to go and take a look. Perhaps there will be something I can help with? As soon as these words were spoken, Lu Zhan and Ji Yun were stunned. Nonsense. When Lu Zhan reacted, he immediately frowned. Don't think that you're invincible just because you have some attainments in the Sword Dao. Didn't you hear what I just said? Even if a high-tier deity-level god spirit were to enter a true god-tier battlefield, they would only be able to help a little. You're just a child who's not even in the god spirit realm. On such a battlefield, the aftershock of a casual strike from them can destroy your soul. Won't you be tempting fate if you go? Your Uncle Lu is right. Ji Yun nodded as well. He looked at Zhou Zhou and said gently, I know you want to save His Excellency Bai He, but you have to do everything within your means. We've already invited Patriarch Lu and His Excellency Xin Yuan. Only they have the right and ability to save His Excellency Bai He. Even your Uncle Lu and I don't dare to interfere. We only dare to prepare support from the back. How are you going to go? If you're unwilling, develop your territory well, and strive to reach the level of Patriarch Lu or even Imperial Lord Pangu as soon as possible. At that time, no one will stop you from doing whatever you want, and no one will be able to stop you. Uncles, I have the confidence to protect myself on a true god-tier battlefield, Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. Not only was he confident that he could save himself, but he was also confident that he could save by he alone. However, if that was the case, he might use the strongest trump card he had always kept. Therefore, he did not want to use this trump card unless he had no choice. However, Bai He had taken great care of him. At this critical moment, he felt that he couldn't just stand by and do nothing when he was confident that he could save Bai He. This went against his principles and bottom line. At this moment, he looked serious and did not seem to be lying. Ji Yun and Lu Zhan were stunned. The two of them looked at each other before looking at Zhou Zhou. Then, Lu Zhan said solemnly, "Are you serious? For real?" The two of them fell into deep thought. A moment later, Ji Yun and Lu Zhan shook their heads slowly. "No, you still can't go," Ji Yun said. "Why?" Zhou Zhou was not angry. He just wanted to ask for the reason. The reason is simple. Among the three abyssal true gods, the Queen of Spiders Lorsi and the immortal King Aokus are still all right. The two of them are only the rulers of intermediate empires. Even if you provoke them, with your current strength, as long as they don't take action personally, your safety won't be a problem. But not for the tyranny and despotic ruler of the Dark Crow. Asgrat can't. He ruled the 45th, 46th, and 47th levels of the Abyss, forming the three domains of Asglat. He then advanced to become the ruler of the Divine Kingdom. Once you provoke He, it means that you, a mere lord of a beginner kingdom, have provoked a Divine Kingdom Lord faction. In such a situation, even the Supreme Agreement can't stop him from attacking you. Even if Asglat doesn't make a move personally, the Divine Kingdom Lords under him can still easily crush you with other methods. You won't be able to withstand the attack of a Divine Kingdom Lord. Even the entire human race can't stop it, Ji Yun said softly. Zhou Zhou. Okay, I won't go, Zhou Zhou said. He didn't have any other merits but to listen to advice. At this point, he could not say anything else. However, he felt that it was a pity. He had never used the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower of the Extreme Dragon race until now. He really wanted to be like the remnant soul of the Black Dragon Emperor and ask his enemy if he was afraid of the Divine Ancestors' relocation. However, since Ji Yun and company were trying their best to dissuade him, there was no harm in keeping this trump card. In the future, he might be able to give those enemies who wanted to deal with him a surprise. After some thought, Zhou Zhou handed a scroll to Ji Yun. This scroll was completely emerald green and emitted a majestic aura of the law of life. This was originally a spoil of war that he had occasionally obtained from the Ice Demon Kingdom. Even though it was very precious, he had never used it. It should come in handy now. At the same time, Ji Yun and Lu Zhan were shocked when they saw this scroll. This was because they could sense that the law of life aura emitted by this scroll was actually the aura of a true god-tier nomological law. This was actually a treasure at the true god-tier level. The two of them immediately looked over. A text notification appeared. Treasure name, Undead God. Treasure grade, True God-tier Elementary grade. Treasure effect. After using it, if the user is a life form, this life form will have an inexhaustible life aura in its body for the next 24 hours. No matter what physical injuries it suffers, it can instantly recover. No existence below the Master God tier can kill this life form in these 23 hours. Treasure introduction. The work of the goddess of life, Tritis. For some reason, it fell into the hands of the Ice Demon Kingdom and later became one of the treasures in the collection of the King of the Blazing Sun. The two of them gaped. He was completely shocked. There was only one thought in their minds. What a top-grade true god-tier treasure. If a true god tier used this scroll and equipped it with a treasure that could protect the soul, wouldn't he be invincible against existences below the Master God tier? Even though it was only invincible for a short period of time, it was still very valuable. It's too valuable. You should keep it for yourself. In the future, if you encounter an enemy that you can't resist, this treasure can save your life. Ji Yun and Lu Zhun's gazes met many times. In the end, Ji Yun reluctantly handed the scroll back to Zhou Zhou. However, Zhou Zhou did not take it. Saving Senior by he will be of no less help to me in the future than this undying God scroll, he said seriously. The future Lord of all races contest was bound to involve the race behind the Lord. If the race behind the Lord was weak, then this Lord of all races would definitely be at a disadvantage in the Lord of all races competition in the future. Zhou Zhou didn't think that he could ignore the help of the races alone and fight against the lords of the myriad races and the race civilization behind them. In fact, if he did not have the help of the Knight Empire and the Divine Sword Empire in this King of 10,000 Kings event, it would be almost impossible for him to be so far ahead on the rankings. Therefore, from now on, preserving and improving the strength of the human race as much as possible was also an investment in his future. Therefore, it was necessary to give them the scroll of the undying God. In any case, he barely had the strength of a true god-tier casual attack now. In addition, the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower could summon the Master God-level Extreme World Honor Dragon to help him. Even if he could only help once, the effect was far better than this undying God scroll. When Ji Yun and Lu Zhun heard that, they thought for a long time before finally nodding solemnly. Then, they put away the undying God scroll. They looked at this true God-tier scroll and could not help but relax. Previously, they were less than 30% confident in saving Bai He, but now that they had the scroll of the undying God, their confidence had suddenly increased to 70%. This was the power of a top-grade true God-tier treasure. After that, the two deities didn't say anything else and directly went to find Patriarch Lu, preparing to head into the abyss to save Bai He. It's a pity that I don't have the chance to meet Patriarch Lu and His Excellency, the Yellow Emperor Xinyuan. Zhou Zhou looked at their backs as they left and said regretfully, "We'll meet again. I'm sure it won't take long." Yuling looked at Zhou Zhou, her eyes shining. She, who had been watching from the sidelines the entire time, never expected that the current Zhou Zhou actually had the ability to interfere in a true god-tier battle. Even though he was only using treasures to interfere, it could be seen how fast Zhou Zhou had grown. No, it was so fast that it was scary. Zhou Zhou did not notice Yuling's expression. After seeing the two of them leave, he did not waste any time and boarded the galaxy with Yuling, heading to the nearest location where the Scarlet God spirits were. As soon as he arrived, he saw Heros fighting with a high-tier deity-level advanced grade Scarlet God spirit. Even though Heros was suppressed by this Scarlet God spirit in terms of strength and realm, but Heros had a full set of divine artifacts on him, he was actually suppressing this Scarlet God spirit who was an advanced grade high-tier deity level. Beside him, Qi Xintian, Feng Luo, and the others were watching the battle from the side. They had no intention of interfering. Clearly, they wanted the belligerent Heros to complete this battle alone. Great, great, ha 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 ha. After sending the high-tier deity-level advance grade Scarlet God spirit flying with another attack, Heros laughed heartily. The temperature within a radius of 500 kilometers rose rapidly with Heros' excitement. As for the Scarlet God spirit, after stabilizing itself, it looked at Heros with a sullen and resentful expression. That's unfair. If it weren't for the fact that you have the power of divine artifacts and nomological laws, how could you have defeated me in a head-on battle? He said angrily. So what? Divine artifacts are a part of strength to begin with? Could it be that it's only fair that I have divine artifacts and don't use them? Then if you have the ability to suppress your strength to the high-tier deity level intermediate grade, I can put away the divine artifact and have a fair battle with you. Heros was extremely heroic. He was never afraid of a battle of equal strength. The Scarlet God spirit's eyes moved slightly when it heard this, and some bad thoughts appeared in its mind. Just as he was about to agree after weighing the pros and cons, a voice suddenly sounded.
Heros.
Leave this guy to this king. It was Zhou Zhou. He descended from the sky and arrived in front of Heros. Then, he slowly walked towards the Scarlet God Spirit, who was an advanced grade high-tier deity level. At the same time, he gradually condensed a chaotic phantom of the sword of Xin Yuan with the chaotic power source in his hand. I'll give you a chance. You can use anything. I don't need a divine artifact. I can even fight you without any equipment. If you win, I'll let you go. Do you dare? Zhou Zhou said. At first, the Scarlet God Spirit was a little surprised, but when he saw Zhou Zhou's strength clearly, he was immediately stunned. There was only one thought in his mind. Legendary tier intermediate grade? Is this human crazy? Zhou Zhou looked at the other party's almost laughing expression, and his expression was very calm. The reason why he dared to raise this challenge was naturally because he had his own confidence. He looked at the law skill that he had comprehended in the time world for a full 2 years yesterday. Law skill name, King. Law skill quality, Black Iron tier. King. As the king of subjects, you can mark a subject that belongs to you and control everything they have, including but not limited to appearance, bloodline, skills, weapons, law skills, and even illusory fate. When you control everything that the marked subject has, the subject doesn't have to suffer any negative effects. Zhou Zhou had a faint smile on his face. This law skill that he had comprehended not only did not damage any of the effects of the original Lord Talent, but the number of subjects marked had also increased from 1 to 2. At the same time, when he used the power of the King's law skill, the marked subjects could not be affected at all. This was strengthened. It could be said that the greatest drawback of the Lord Talent, the King, had been eliminated, making the King's law skill a perfect Black Iron tier law skill without any flaws. This was also the reason why he had the courage to challenge this high-tier deity-level advanced grade Scarlet God Spirit without borrowing any divine artifacts. Zhou Zhou never did anything that he wasn't confident in. For today's battle, he had even specially honed his combat skills for a full 10 years in the Time World last night. Just the number of deaths in the Time World alone was no less than 100. However, this Scarlet God Spirit did not know. Hence, he looked at Zhou Zhou as a sinister smile gradually appeared on his face. Scared? How can I be afraid? Since you have a death wish, I'll send you on your way. As soon as he finished speaking, he let out a sharp cry and emitted an extremely terrifying sound wave attack. Then, he flashed and appeared in front of Zhou Zhou in the blink of an eye. He then swung a purple hammer at Zhou Zhou. Facing the sound wave attack released by the other party first, Zhou Zhou, who had the Chaos Will, was immune to the soul attack without even having his eyes explode. Then, under the other party's shocked gaze, Zhou Zhou directly activated his King talent and augmented the strength of the two subjects on himself. One of them was naturally Guoqiao. After Zhou Zhou added his strength to himself, he used the Dragon Slaying Will to directly raise his strength to the high-tier deity-level intermediate grade. Then, he added the strength of another god spirit to his body. He was no other god spirit. It was Heros, who had the strength of a high-tier deity-level intermediate grade. As the most powerful god spirit in the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou Zhou naturally wouldn't forget he. At this moment, 2 high-tier deity-level intermediate grade gods added to his body, instantly raising Zhou Zhou's current strength to the high-tier deity-level advanced grade. Boom! Fire and lightning erupted from his body, making him look like the god of lightning and fire. Behind him, the phantom of a world intertwined with lightning and fire appeared, blotting out the sky. A shocking aura erupted from Zhou Zhou's body. Everything within a radius of 5,000 kilometers was enveloped by Zhou Zhou's terrifying divine might. The world was silent. All the living beings and god spirits looked at Zhou Zhou in shock and even reverence. In the eyes of all living beings, Zhou Zhou's aura was countless times stronger than that of a high-tier deity level. Perhaps only the legendary true god tier could compare to him. At the same time, facing this shocking aura, the high-tier deity level advanced grade Scarlet God Spirit that was charging at him was naturally the first to bear the brunt. He immediately felt that something was amiss. He only felt a great fear surge into his heart. Run, run. This thought surfaced in his mind. Then, he even gave up on attacking and turned around to tear open a silver scroll. He saw ripples suddenly appear in space before a spatial rift was suddenly opened. He wanted to enter without thinking. Law skill, space imprisonment. At this moment, a faint voice sounded. The next second, a power that sealed the space instantly spread out within a radius of 5,000 kilometers. The spatial crack that had just been opened recovered at an even faster speed. In fact, the space was even stronger than before. The Scarlet God Spirit's expression darkened. He turned to look at Zhou Zhou and saw him looking at him with a calm expression. "Why are you running? We haven't even fought yet," he said. As for the nomological skill he had just used, space imprisonment, it was unknown which unlucky enemy he had obtained it from. Even legendary tier life forms could drop divine spark fragments. He already had hundreds of law skills on him. Spatial imprisonment was just one of the law skills. The Scarlet God Spirit looked at him without saying a word. He sensed the majestic aura on Zhou Zhou's body and understood something. This guy who looked like a human on the surface was definitely from a high-level bloodline race. Otherwise, it would be impossible for both sides to be high-tier deity-level advanced-grade existences. His aura and pressure were actually so strong that he could be said to be close to a true god tier. He realized that he had no way out. A ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. He raised his purple hammer with both hands and raised it high above his head. The divine power in his entire body erupted, and all of it was instilled into this mid-tier deity-level divine artifact. An aura of pressure, heaviness, attraction, and rejection emanated from him. At this moment, all the life forms present had an illusion. The heavy hammer in the Scarlet God Spirit's hand seemed to be a huge star in a daze. Its weight was probably more than 1 trillion tons. Heros, Guoqiao, and Qi Xintian had solemn expressions. They all had combat power comparable to a high-tier deity level. But at this moment, facing this hammer that contained the law of gravity, they felt that they could not withstand it. Now that's interesting. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. Buzz. The illusory sword of Xin Yuan in his hand suddenly emitted boundless sword light. One could vaguely see the sun, moon, stars, mountains, plants, farming, and livestock, as well as the phenomenon of the illusory unification of the 4 seas. Boom. He raised the sword of Xin Yuan high and saw the sword beam shoot straight for 1,500 kilometers, illuminating a radius of billions of kilometers. Right on the heels of that, another explosion sounded. The scorching divine power of fire from Heros appeared in the void and attached to the 9,000-kilometer-long majestic sword aura, causing the sword aura to flash with golden flames. It was as if a towering sword aura pillar had appeared out of thin air. Heros, Guoqiao, and Qi Xuantian's eyes sparkled when they saw this scene. They even had some comprehension in their hearts. The abilities of the 3 people on Zhou Zhou were indeed obtained from them. However, when Zhou Zhou used these abilities at a higher level, he would naturally give them some guidance. At the same time, when the Scarlet God Spirit saw Zhou Zhou's attack, it could not help but feel a sense of fear. However, he quickly came to his senses and was alarmed. He knew that if this continued, he might not even have the courage to use this final move. He didn't dare to think too much about it. He struck with all his might, smashing his strongest law skill, Falling Star, at Zhou Zhou.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.